I look like I'm doing late night radio or something smooth, like
Mhm.
I'm like in a dressing gown. It's like pajama FM. This is. Welcome to A Different Corner, a fantasy football podcast. My name's Manish Verma. I'm joined by my good friend and FPL rival, although this year doesn't feel like so much, Dr. Luman Ali. Luman, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. It's Monday, so I've had a couple of days to recover from the car crash that was watching Liverpool lose to Nottingham Forest. It wasn't so
Yep.
much that we lost, it was just horrible to watch. Since Forest had a game plan, they packed
Yep.
that midfield. We played as if like, oh my god, it's a team that's playing at Anfield and they're packing the midfield and packing the defense. What a shock!
Right.
And to be fair to Forest, they had the chances. We didn't. We were very uninspired. We need to bounce back ASAP. But other than that, all good. How about you, North
Well,
London
I've
Derby?
North London. We'll get to that in a second. I feel like I should, for those watching, because we've never done a shout out that we're recording a podcast, but content creators that we are, this is available on all platforms as well as YouTube. So we now record the videos. And for anyone watching this, which isn't a great deal at the minute, but we're growing people.
Yeah.
I am in my pajamas here. I play football on a Monday evening and I've just come back. So this is not just greasy hair. This is fresh shower hair. This is, so just to explain why I look so strange, maybe.
Thanks for clarifying that. For a second, I thought you were auditioning for the Howard Stern show.
Well, we could turn it into that. We could turn it into that. Maybe
Yeah,
we won't
but
be so
then
blue.
let's let's
Probably
have
not
the
my
right
bag, Lumen.
let's have the right kind of fantasy here.
Let's have the right kind of fancy. But talking of fancy, this was a week for me, which was fantasy football bad, real football good. I had a horror week, but this is the thing, isn't it? With fantasy football, it gets you in that trap of, oh, but who got the assist or who scored for me? And you're rooting for teams that you wouldn't normally root for. But actually, this weekend, I did terribly, but I felt like I could sort of compartmentalize it because Arsenal beat Spurs in the North London derby in a week when Liverpool lost, Man City won. And even at this stage of the season, Lumen, people are saying, if Arsenal lost there to Spurs, Man City, they're just going to walk this title. And I think that narrative would be playing, right? That would be, would be
100%.
and so I feel like we've just stalled it for now, at least.
If Arsenal hadn't lost and it was a draw, but then
Yeah.
we lost next weekend, that would be
Mm.
7 point gap at this early stage.
Yeah.
And I just think that Arsenal did something important. They could win without important players, right?
Mm.
But can I say it's Spurs? It's Spurs. I made a fundamental cock up last year when
Mm.
I was talking about Spurs being the kingmakers. Were they
Mm.
bollocks? I mean, Spurs. I mean, every year we get burnt. Giorgio Chiellini did that interview, post-match interview, when he said, losing is in their heritage. And I don't know why we keep falling for that trap. And every year I get burnt. I mean, I've still got Dominic Solanke. I mean, what's that
Yeah.
about? Mickey Van der Ven, maybe you
Sheesh.
can forgive, but I've still got Dominic Solanke. I need my head testing. But
Well, actually, Lumen, with that in mind, I've got a little thing that I want to do here.
yeah.
I'm going to say a sentence. This is kind of old school American comedy here. That this
hmm
is, I don't know what it's called. I think it's called something to crowd shout out something. All right. I'm going to say a line, and then you're going to say the phrase. I'm going to ask you a question, and you're going to say, "How dumb are we?" Okay. So, Lumen, we're so dumb. You say, "How
How
dumb are?"
how dumb are we?
We're so dumb that we went to the movies. It said under 18s not admitted. So we went home to get 16 more people. Lumen, how dumb are we?
How dumb are we? We're very dumb.
We're so dumb that we think Fleetwood Mac is a new burger at McDonald's. Lumen, how dumb are we?
We're so dumb that we don't have Erling Haaland in our teams.
Lumen, we're so dumb that it's game week 5 and we still do not have Erling Haaland in our squads. We've gone 4 game weeks with no big Norwegian who's just scoring goals for absolute fun. What is wrong
Four,
with us?
4 game weeks, and I think 54 points. And if you do what everybody's done, captain him in every game, that's 108 points.
We've missed out on 108 points. So what, like a few weeks ago, I was like justifying it. Erling Haaland needs to score a minimum brace a game. He is scoring a minimum brace a game. God,
Yeah,
he's just so
but
good.
I was telling you that your logic was flawed. The way you were talking is like, oh, he's got to do this. But the flip side was this magical expectation that your other strikers would be doing the
Yeah,
business. They're
yeah,
not,
yeah,
none of them are doing it. We're talking about fantasy football, uh, the only football podcast with a George Michael theme. Now,
yeah.
this is the only football podcast in the world without Haaland in the team. We should rebrand ourselves.
Well, surprising. This is crazy, right? So Erling Haaland scored 9 goals this season. 9 goals this season, right? We're only on 4 games in. Last season, I'm sure his ownership went up to a record high of like 90 something
Yeah,
percent,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. It
It's
was
still
crazy.
under 70%. It's
But
still,
that's
so
because
we
of the
are amongst
cost.
those 30% of just
Yeah,
owners who are just being
it's the
dumb as well.
price. It's the price.
Yeah,
That's why.
it's the
That's why.
price. But we're
Otherwise,
paying the price, Lumen. We are
what?
paying the price.
One
This is the
hundred
problem.
percent. How much of a price? How many points did you get this week?
I got a horrible, just a measly. Oh gosh, look, I'm just looking at the average. I've just seen the average was 51 this week. I got 29. My only returns came from Bukayo, Mr. Consistency Saka, and Lissandro Martinez. Otherwise, I got 2s and 1s everywhere, including Mo Salah, my captain, who only got me 2 points. I did have Raya on the bench. I
Explain
at
that. Explain that one.
9 points. You know what? I'm if we're so dumb and this movie is Dumb and Dumber, I'm the dumber of the two because firstly I drop right. I insist I'm going to start Saka and Havertz because big team, big players, big game. They're going to do it. They're going to. But I just felt like we were going to concede. But I thought, why? Like, why am I thinking that? Because
It's
we're
Spurs.
so solid. It's Spurs, but also Arsenal are so solid. We are the so solid crew. We are we are 21 seconds done. We're kind of really, really, really good at the back. So I don't know why I dropped him. I would have got another 9 points, would have taken me to 38, but I'm on a measly 29. Red arrows everywhere, just terrible overall, like 3.5 millionth in the world. It's not good. Is there a game plan to get me out of it? Kind of, but you know why I'm even dumber than dumberer and I'm the dumbest ever? Because Arsenal are playing Man City next game week, and I'm insisting not to. I can't bet against my team, so I can't put Erling Haaland in. I
It's
can't do
fantasy
it.
football. If your team loses, at least you get the benefit of the points. So there you have
I
it.
know, but do I want to feel any joy for Erling Haaland to score 1, 2, or even 3 goals past my team? It will give me that. I'll feel dirty afterwards, Lumen. I can't feel dirty
Mm.
after FPL. I need to go in with good conscience.
I mean, I didn't do much better. I got 43 points off the average of 51. So Raya got me points. Emil Smith Rowe got me points. You don't need to know that name. He's left Arsenal. Forget about him. And Ollie Watkins finally came good. So am I happy? No. But could it have been worse? Yes. I was banking on certain players coming through for me on Sunday, like Palmer, like Isaac. and maybe Solanke, but they didn't. There's a scene in Dumb and Dumber where headlights are involved, and I
Oh
just
yeah.
feel like we are stuck in the headlights. That's
we
us.
are. We are. We
If
are.
you know, then you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of pain. Both of us captain Mo Salah. Um,
Mm.
both of us have got Diogo Jota in our team. So Jota was disappointing, much in the same way as Brighton were disappointing. Did you see that
Well,
coming?
I was banking on a Brighton haul, right? I had Minter there. I was thinking, yes, I finally can get some points from him because I've benched him every time this season when he's got a couple of assists, and nothing from him. Brighton were good, however. I did watch the highlights and they did look good. They did have chances. They just couldn't put them away. And I feel like it's a disappointment, but I don't want to go too big on Brighton. Just I don't want to be too harsh on Brighton. It's like being too harsh on Mo Salah. It's fine.
Yeah,
It's a blank game week. Brighton will, I feel, get returns, and they got somewhat unlucky.
they're a very good team.
But there were some where I am disappointed in, and I feel like this is more than a 1 week blip. It's a trend. Crystal Palace. I've gone in, and Eze owners will be, you know, praising me here because we have not had anything barring one game week from Eze. He's a fantastic player, but we're just not getting the returns for the money.
Don't
And I just don't know. Their form's been bad. 2-0 down at City. I know they clawed it back for against Leicester, but Leicester are relegation favourites and Crystal Palace are at home. And
yeah.
Palace are really disappointing at the minute.
Well, I was gonna make a move, and I'm glad I didn't. I was gonna bring
Mm.
Nathaniel Klein in because
Mm.
he's 4.4 million, I think. But I've said this in previous game weeks that there's certain managers, the likes of Glasner, the likes of Gary O'Neill. There's a couple of others who are really good managers, but they're being asked to perform miracles every year, losing their best players
Mm.
and then asked to perform miracles. And the issue for me was Elise leaving. Elise, Eze, and Mateta were electrifying as a combo. With Elise leaving, you can't easily create that chemistry again. So that's going to take time. But Mateta did score twice. So, but as bad as that was, I'm really
Yeah.
annoyed with myself for getting Pau Torres in to replace Lewis Hall. I mean, this guy every week he's only got 2 points. What's
Oh,
possessed me to get him in? I don't know.
and that's the thing. You think Villa as a strong team, and they're a good, strong team. 3 wins out of the 4 games so far. That one defeat was to Arsenal, which they could have won the game in the first half, certainly. And they're getting the results, but what they're not getting is clean sheets. I have no idea what's going on there. They've conceded to West Ham. Obviously, Arsenal, I just mentioned, they conceded to Leicester. They were 2-0 down at Everton at home until a kind of miracle. The less said about Everton, the better at the minute. But if we're talking about trends and how I said Brighton's a blip, Salah having a one-off game week is probably a blip. Is are Villa and clean sheets a trend now? Are just not secure at the back now?
100%. And I am going to be looking to get rid of Pau Torres the first opportunity I get.
Mm.
That's going to be a long way off because I'm just so limited. I cannot tell you how hamstrung I am by transfers this year. I, I am completely debilitated, but I will take him out at the first opportunity. And just the number of games that Villa have got as well, they're not keeping clean sheets. And I was stupid and naive to get him in. But at the other end, Watkins finally showed up.
Watkins finally showed up. He has dropped in value to 8.9. He's got now an assist in one game, and then now finally he plays more than 60 minutes. He's got 83 minutes at the weekend, 2 goals. Is Ollie Watkins back? Is he staying in your team? I think a lot of managers are going to look at him now because they feel, and I'm one of them. I'm like a form guy. Are you in form? And Ollie Watkins, an assist and now a brace with Wolves at home, Ipswich away, Man United at home, Fulham at home away, and then Bournemouth at home. They are, I would say, Ollie Watkins fixtures, right? They're not against the big teams. No disrespect, Man United, but you know what I mean. He should be targeting every one of them to be able to score against. Is he staying with you? Is he
Oh,
staying in
100,
yours?
100%. Um, a combination. The main, I mean, it, it's just how miserable I am that I keep going back to the same point. But my team has lost that much value. I can't afford to ship players out.
Right.
So I've stuck with the same strike force, just hoping that they'll come good. And,
Mm,
and it's by pure luck that Watkins has come good.
yeah.
But Isaac, had a,
Mhm.
Isaac's going out. Isaac, I've had enough of him. He's having a stinker of a season, right?
Mm.
He's having a stinker of a season. Solanke, I don't know. Maybe it's injury related. Maybe it's the fact that he's gone to Spurs to kill his career. But yeah,
What? Who are the? You asked the question. Who are the kind of the supporting cast to an Erling Haaland then that
okay.
you
So
feel
so
like you can get points from?
so now you've got Watkins in the mix, right?
Okay.
I think likes of Jackson and Wissa are good for a goal every other game.
Yeah.
They're not going to get you points every week, but every other week. For me, you and I are looking at it slightly differently. You're looking at getting Haaland in by any means necessary, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm looking at getting Arsenal play. If I could do 15 Arsenal players, I'd get 15 Arsenal players. Last week I said it. They're the only team I'd consider players from every single position. And off the back of that, Havertz. I need to get Havertz in.
Yeah, but he blanked. He didn't score. He didn't score
Even
this
then,
weekend. Got
even
what's
then,
he got? 2 goals and 1 assist this season. It's not massive.
at his price, I think it's value.
You like that?
I,
Okay.
I like that. So yeah, and then Mateta again. Yes, he scored 2 goals, but he's struggling. But
And
if
he's
you
at
look at
7.4. And Palace,
mm,
I just don't know about this Palace team. 2 defeats and 2 draws, and not against teams you expect them to beat. So I just don't know. But maybe they'll prove me wrong.
yeah,
Other strikers, can I just mention? Big props to Jamie Vardy, man. Like at 5.6, we mentioned him last weekend.
yeah,
Leicester haven't won a game yet, but he scored 2 goals, and for 5.6, he is a good supporting cast to an Erling Haaland. Another one in that price bracket. What about John Duran at Villa, who hasn't played more
mm,
than half an hour but scored goals, 3 goals?
but he doesn't start.
This is it. But does it matter because you've got Erling Haaland who's just banging them in? So anything's a
That's tr-
bonus pass
that's
after him.
true. I would love Haaland, but can I? I mean, I can't.
You're gonna
You
have to
know,
pull the wild card, man. You're gonna have to
no,
pull the
it's
wild
not so
card.
much the wild card as the fact that you can't afford anyone else if you get Haaland in. That's like, and his
Yeah,
value's going up and up and up. Um,
yeah.
Now I know we talk every week about Haaland because the guy, his goals demand attention.
Mm.
But let me throw this at you, something slightly different, right? What do you think of next season, providing, Haaland is still there
Hmm.
and Pep is still there? What do you think of making him £20 million? I'm being serious. What do you think?
Well, what did he jump from last season to 15? What was he?
I think he was 11 and a half first season, and then he
Gosh,
went
so
to,
they've
yeah, then he went to
and
14, and
so
now
they've
he's
done
at
a
15,
three and a
right?
half million and then another
Yeah.
million. I think they'll probably, I mean, he's putting them numbers up. I think it could happen, right? It could happen. A fifth of your budget,
No, no,
a
no, no.
fifth of your whole budget.
I'm not saying. Do you think it'll happen? I think, you know, should it happen? Should it happen? Where,
Just to make it more interesting for everyone else. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, yeah.
It's like a cheat code. That's what you're getting at here. Having Erling Haaland is like a cheat code. I mean, it surely, but it wouldn't put people off. They'll just stack their defense with 4 million defenders, all across the board, and then I've got Erling Haaland, captain.
Yeah.
There's what I'm making up for it every week.
It is madness.
Yeah.
But do you know what makes the situation worse for you and I? If you don't have Haaland in your team, then you're spending big elsewhere.
Yeah.
And, that could be forwards, that could be premium defenders, but it could also be premium midfielders. But aside from Salah and Saka, the rest of the premium midfielders, I mean, Cole Palmer's, had a couple of returns, but he's missed in half the games. But then Foden, De Bruyne, Bruno Fernandes, Son, they've had the odd game, but they've not justified their price tag. And then the level below that, apart from Luis Diaz, points returns have not been great. So if we look at midfield, and the points beyond Salah, Diaz, and Saka, Palmer had that great game. Embuemo got 25 points respectable. Harvey Barnes off the bench with 23, Son with 23 because he had that crazy game, right, with 16 points, but he's blanked in the other 3 games. What are you thinking for midfield? Because the options.
So we're basically saying there are no strikers other than really Erling Haaland, and now there are no midfielders other than Mo Salah, really. I mean, you'd have to put Saka in that bracket of midfielders who are doing it, but those double-digit returns, Saka's had 1, but then, as I call him, Mr. Consistency, because he's assist, is that enough for 10 million?
I need him.
Bukayo.
My draft wildcard was about getting Saka in, not Haaland in. I mean, this guy is playing every single game. He reminds me, Saka, of like those Victorian kids. He looks so young, right? Those chimney sweeps. He
Get him
shows
to work.
up.
He just shows up.
He shows up.
Yeah.
Arsenal, they don't let him rest, right? He's one chimney after another, the boy's sweeping, right? He just, there's no rest whatsoever. Sometimes I feel like, how you've got these endurance feats, like running 7 marathons in 7 continents or running marathons every day.
Yeah.
I just think that Arsenal, the aim with Saka is not to win him trophies, but to get him to 2,000 games.
It is a concern. It is a concern because Bukayo Saka is so important to the way we play. I'm hoping now that we've got Raheem Sterling in, we're able to take him off earlier in games, or even, let's say, in Europe in the early games, these games we've got coming up, maybe just resting him altogether. It's weird to say that in Champions League, but I just want this Premier League, man. We need him fresh for the Premier League, and I wouldn't mind seeing him rested. But you're right. He plays all the time. From a fantasy perspective, I don't know if 10 million. Remember, that's a big price tag for someone who gets assists consistently but doesn't score as many goals as like a Mo Salah, for example. And we know that Cole Palmer probably has a greater propensity to go off. What I like about Bukayo Saka is he can score the odd goal. He gets assists. He's on penalties. But what's really important for an Arsenal assets in Bukayo Saka, he takes corners, and we're really, really strong, as the weekend showed, at set pieces. So there's lots of reasons maybe why he justifies his inclusion, but at 10 million he's expensive. I say that he's He's in my
Would,
team. So yeah,
would you be happy to take Saka out to get Haaland in?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. At the minute, look, I messaged you at the weekend saying this is basically not having Lionel Messi in your squad in that season. He scored 50 goals. We're that team without Lionel Messi in. I'm not saying Erling Haaland is as good as Messi or will be as great as him, but his goal ratio right now, from a fantasy perspective, we need those points, man. And every week that goes by, we've just not got them. We've just not got them.
One thing that was interesting again was United keeping a clean sheet.
Oh
And the
yeah,
reason I
yeah.
say it's interesting is because under Ten Hag, they've had these games where they've conceded loads of goals, but
Mm.
every season they keep clean sheets. So Onana was the second highest number of clean sheets last season,
Oh,
right? This year, this season, if you were to ask any fan, what their greatest memories about United, they'll tell you getting whooped 3-0 by Liverpool, which they did. But in 4 games, they've kept 2 clean sheets. I think
interesting.
having United defenders, Mazraoui is 4.5 million. Lenny
Mm,
Euro, when he comes back, is 4.5 million. You know,
mm.
Delict is a bit more expensive at 5. Martinez is 4.5 as well.
4.5. Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
it's a
4.5.
no-brainer for me.
It's
This is where
cheaper
I went
assets
wrong.
now.
I should have got United defenders in instead of Pau. You know,
Mm,
Pau
mm.
Torres more like Pau Baji. If you know, you know, right? Just sloppy, absolutely sloppy, right? Just not good at all.
No.
Um, so
Yeah,
yeah,
as a Manu, I didn't see that two clean sheets, and the teams that they conceded to: Brighton, attacking team, and Liverpool, an attacking team. So they've got Palace away next, Spurs at home, Villa away. I mean, you just don't know which Manchester United you're getting. But for cheap defensive assets, yeah, that's not a bad shout at all. And then they've got this new. Is he a defensive midfielder? They've signed
Ugarte.
Ugarte. Yeah, is he? So you would think they'd be even more defensively sound
Yeah.
potentially. But let's look ahead, Lumen. Let's look ahead. We've got to get game week 4 out of our memories. Certainly, I do. But let's look ahead to game week 5, and I want to call this is the George Michael themed fantasy football podcast. One of his big, massive hits was "Careless Whisper." And I want you to carelessly whisper a tip, Lumen, which for each of these games, who do you fancy? But I want you to give me a differential for each one of these. I'm going to give you West Ham Chelsea first. Everyone knows Cole Palmer, but is there a differential in this game that you think, you know what? I don't mind them. Carelessly whisper your FPL tip. West Ham Chelsea.
Um, Interesting game. Chelsea, hard to know what you're going to get. West Ham haven't had a great start to the season.
Mm,
Um, every now and then, Mohamed Kudus has a game where you think, wow,
yeah.
no wonder he's being linked to bigger clubs. And I think this might be one of those games. He's not done much so far this season,
Mm-hmm.
but I think he could possibly remind other teams and other fantasy football players of his greatness. So
Yeah.
kudos for that one.
Nice one. It's not necessarily a differential, but because he's so well known. But Jared Bowen has been returning so far. 1 goal and 2 assists so far.
Hmm.
West Ham haven't been great, but check this out, Lumen. He's only at 6.1 ownership. Jared
Yeah.
Bowen. That is low for him. The next one, carelessly whisper your tip for Aston Villa Wolves, a differential in the West Midlands derby. Aston Villa Wolves.
I think an upset could be on the cards here with no
Okay.
midweek game for Wolves. And for that, I would look at Matthias Cunha or Strand Larson.
Oh, I like
Um,
Strand Larson. I
yeah,
like Strand Larson. I saw his
as
highlights at the
differentials.
weekend. 5.5 million striker. Yeah, I like him. I do not like Wolves fixtures, and they've had 3 defeats in 4.
Yeah.
Ugh, it's not been a good start. Not been a good start. Next one, Fulham versus Newcastle.
Another interesting one. Newcastle are just getting results. I don't know
Yeah,
how, but they're getting
yeah.
results. For this game, if I had to chuck a differential, would say maybe Andres Pereira.
Here's one for you. This is a weird one. Is less than 1% owned, but he seems to get some minutes, and I just think Eddie Howe loves him. But every season he'll get a mega haul. But Jacob Murphy at Newcastle will at one stage in the season will like bag 2 goals and an assist. I don't know if it's this one, but Eddie Howe does like him. He does like him. Yeah. Okay. Next one. Leicester City at home to Everton. Two teams struggling at the bottom. No wins between them. Is there anyone that you're taking there?
Calvert-Lewin has scored in his last 2 games, and
Yes.
his ownership is not very
Yeah.
high.
Less than
Um,
3%. Mm.
correct. And Vardy too. So either of those, you could be doing well.
Liverpool versus Bournemouth.
Semenyo's, had a decent start, but for a
Very good,
differential,
yeah.
maybe Evan Nilsson because he missed a penalty, but he could be determined to make a point.
I also like Justin Kluivert. He's quite a
Yep.
good direct winger, 5.5. You're not going to get massive points from him, but if you're looking for a cheap differential, yeah, it's not a bad one to have. Let's move on to promoted teams. Southampton versus Ipswich. Lots of, I imagine, differentials there. I wouldn't know any, to be honest with you. I've not looked at the Southampton squad at all. Ipswich, you like that guy, don't you? What's his name? I forget it every week.
Smodix.
Smodzix. Yeah. He's not returned a great deal, but yeah, maybe at he's 6 million. Maybe you don't want to. Maybe that's quite pricey for Smodix there.
Yeah. Here's a differential for you. £4 million. Greaves, who's like their centre back, goes up for corners as well.
Okay,
£4 million against Southampton.
let's go to Spurs versus Brentford. We've spoken a lot about Spurs, but they're at home to Brentford. Is there a differential player here? We're not looking at Son, for example, but we are looking at who, Lumen?
Dominic Solanke.
Is Dominic Solanke going to return for you?
Solanke is going to stand tall this year, this weekend.
I mean, Brentford, it's all about Mbeumo or Wissa, although Wissa does have, at the minute, a big red mark next to his name, a warning flag. I don't know if he got injured or something at the ankle injury. Oh dear, Wissa, ankle injury expected back 23rd of November. Oh
Yikes.
man, gosh, that's
They've been
problem.
unlucky because,
Yeah,
he's been asked to pick up the slack they
yeah.
signed a replacement for Tony and he's out for 6 months. So
Oof,
it's
oof,
nothing
oof,
but
oof.
bad news at the moment for
That
Brentford.
is not good. Not you would have thought then Spurs are good for a win there. Maybe even at the defense potentially. Crystal Palace versus Man United.
Yeah, I'd go in on United defenders for this.
Brighton at home to Nottingham Forest.
So if I want a budget option, I'd consider the Forest goalkeeper, who's the fifth highest scoring goalkeeper at the moment.
Wow, wow, wow. 4.5 Mats Sells. I like some Forest defenders. Ola Aina, he had a very good game.
And his
And I've
value's
just
dropped.
and his value's dropped 4.4 million. That's not a bad shout. And Forest have not lost a game yet. 2 draws, 2 wins.
The game of the week.
The blockbuster, the heavyweight battle. Man City versus Arsenal. Are there even any differentials? Can you
This
get any
one's easy.
differentials here?
Yep.
Go
Haaland.
on. That's not a differential. Haaland. That's it, really.
I would strongly fancy,
Mhm.
and I say this, strongly fancy Gabriel to repeat what he did this past weekend.
Oh, really? Set piece goal?
Oh, 100%.
Really?
100%. They're just so good at set pieces.
We are. We are. Just the irony of that. Do you remember we used to be haunted by Boltons and Stokes
Hmm.
because of their set pieces, and now we're doing it right back to the rest of the league. It's the vengeance.
Here's a question for you.
Mm.
Would you be happy with a draw?
Oh, I want to say yes, Lumen. I know of last season, but I mean, is it too early to lose the title? You can't
Yes,
lose the title
it is
now.
too early. It's
So
too early.
even if you lose, is it, you know what I'm thinking? If you lose, does it have such a big impact on you? Lose to Man City, does it have such a big impact on you that it affects your next few games? Or do you take a draw and take comfort from that and be like, that we're fine still. We're still up there. We can still hang with them on their turf. I don't know how adventurous you can be in this game because they'll just punish you. I would take a draw. I know it's like being stung again. I know
Mhm.
exactly where this leads.
You'll get chances. This is not a watertight City defense.
Yeah,
They
true.
they concede goals.
They concede in the first 30 seconds of games. Apparently, that's a strange thing to happen.
Yeah, but
But they score goals.
they're champions. They're resilient. Now, I want to end with this, right? You're talking about getting Haaland in your team, right?
Mm.
But you're not going to get him in this week because he's playing against Arsenal. Is that because subconsciously you think he's a flat track bully?
No, no.
No?
I've
Oh,
never
okay.
really, I've
His
never
stats aren't
really.
great against the
Well,
so-called
see,
bigger
I've not.
teams.
Yeah, you've said this to me in the past. I've never really looked into that. I just see these hat tricks he scores and think, oh my gosh. But maybe if against those big teams and the big matches, is he doing it in the Champions League? Has he been doing it? I don't know. I
You
don't know
make
is
him
the answer
sound
to
like
that.
LL Cool J.
Doing it. Well, hopefully
He
he's not licking his lips at this weekend's fixture,
he's doing it
Lumen.
well. He's doing it well.
He's doing it well. Gosh, yeah. Let's hope he doesn't. Let's hope he refrains himself this weekend. Arsenal, Man City. Come on, Gooners. Come on, we've got to beat them. We've got to
We'll
do
be
it.
there. We'll be there.
We'll be there. Hopefully with better FPL scores, but we will be there. We'll be there.